Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm here to share the speaker portion of our Connections After Hours gathering of the On Purpose Woman Global Community. Rosemary Bredeson is speaking on Know Yourself to Be Yourself. Reverend Rosemary Robertson, let me start over. I'm going to use her whole name here because we think we might be related down there somewhere. Reverend Rosemary Robertson Bredeson is a spiritual mentor and medium and teacher of the new consciousness. After many years working for NASA on the Hubble Space Telescope Project, she changed careers to help people find the clear path to living as their authentic self. Using counseling tools and intuitive gifts, Rosemary works with individuals, teaches classes, and shares wisdom from many dimensions, speaking at events. You can learn more about Rosemary at thescientificmystic.com. And Rosemary, you are on.
Thank you, Jenny. And are you recording this or can I record it on my computer? You are. Okay.
Yes, it's a Facebook Live. So I'll send you the link to the YouTube video when it's up.
Great. Thank you. I see you. I see each of you. And I'm excited to be here to talk about how you learn to know yourself so you can be yourself. And being you is what you're here on the planet for. So all the roles that we play and the masks that we wear and the things we think about ourselves are built up over our time here on the planet. But what I'm really excited about sharing with you is some of the ways to learn to know yourself so you can be yourself and be the great gift that you're born to be. So you heard some of my background. I am a teacher of the new consciousness, but also an oracle of the new consciousness. And I teach my clients and students how to be in their multidimensional life on planet Earth. When we say multidimensional, you know, we like to think about the cosmos and then we're these earthlings, but actually everyone is living a multidimensional life, whether you're conscious of it or not. So my job is to help you discover how to be conscious about your living and how to use all the dimensions that are available to you to support you in living the life that you dream of. Now, my background is science and mathematics. And we've been talking about some of the roles that we play. I really experienced intuitive gifts when I was in seminary. And I kind of, was like, well, the scientific part of me was questioning some of the stuff. And I was required to get a bunch of different readings to learn about myself. Astrology, numerology, course, doing counseling before they would certify me as a pastoral counselor. I had to get counseling as well as learn about it. But one of the things that I learned was, oh, the more I know about myself, the better I can be in the world to fulfill my purpose, to live my mission in the world. I have to know who I am in order to really bring that to the world. And so what I want to share tonight is some of the tools and some of the ways that we know ourselves. And as entrepreneurs, I just invite you to consider that working on yourself is working on your business. And entrepreneurs really need to grasp that at the very beginning of the journey, because if you don't, your entrepreneurship is going to bring it to you in the face. So I like to help entrepreneurs discover that part about it's not separate. It's not like, oh, when my business gets to this point, then I'll hire a mentor kind of a thing. We hire coaches to help us with our business or our book writing or whatever it is, the flirting, right? And I'm a spiritual mentor. So I help people understand and support them through the growth process. Bless you. And in that role that we play as who we are, we relax into whatever it is we've learned about ourselves so that we can express it in the world. I like to use the word relaxed because being yourself is the easiest thing you can be. But how do you know? How do you get there? Tools that are available, and there are many. The more you learn about yourself, we've talked about Bank, B-A-N-K, and there's Myers-Briggs, there's the Enneagram. There, you can have an astrology reading, a numerology reading. I do human design readings for people to understand. This is a newer tool that is so in-depth about understanding how we're wired to be here. And I'm telling you, each time I've learned a new tool, I've understood how relaxing it is to go, oh, that's why this is how I am in the world. I will tell you that my husband and I studying both the Enneagram and Myers-Briggs and then now human design, it has made such a difference in our relationship because we understand who we are and we understand who each other is. So the communication can be better. But until I knew that I'm a splenic projector in the human design system, I was running around trying to be a generator like my husband, or like society wants us to be, Energizer Bunny, right? I'm not designed to be an Energizer Bunny. I'm designed to be a guide. And then other people are the bunnies who run around and do everything. But until you understand that that's your design, you can try to do what you think you should be doing or you should be living as. And we call it conditioning in human design. It's really that programming. I don't know about anybody else, but I can look at my life and see where the programming came from. I go back to my Catholic upbringing, Catholic school from kindergarten through college, right? And one time I had a realization that I sat there every time I was in mass going, Lord, I am not worthy. And I had this realization that I got programmed to think I was not worthy because I said it to myself and struck my breast as I said it 3 times. It's things like that that are in our history, in our story. And so as Carol was talking about your story and learning your story and getting into it, that intimacy of your story, there are so many stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves, or we listen to about ourselves, whether it's a teacher, a parent, a grandmother, or the kid down the street. And we just kind of take it in and we embrace it as if it's true. And I'm going to give you a phrase that I use with my clients a lot. What's familiar feels like truth. What's familiar feels like truth, with a capital T. And if you ponder that, you realize how many ideas about yourself you don't even question because it feels like that truth. It's so familiar, whether it's the mask you're wearing, the role you're wearing, or the belief that you have about yourself. It feels like truth, but what if it's just familiar? And that's a place to really go. If you want to know yourself, you start to examine every thought, every belief, and you pay attention to the words that you use, because your language, I'll get all scientific, it's a frequency. We're all energy. You're putting out a frequency. You're creating a magnet. So in NLP, one of the things I'm certified in, I could go through the list, but that's one of them. Your unconscious mind cannot understand a negative, right? So if you say, I am not going to eat French fries today, what does your unconscious mind have to do for you? It has to make a picture of you eating French fries in order to make sense of that sentence. And so what do you then do? You start salivating for French fries before the day is over, right? So when you start conscious living, you pay attention to even a sentence like that. Like in the morning, if you're saying, well, I am not going to have ice cream today, all you're going to do is start the day out with pictures of ice cream in your head. If you start the day with, I choose to eat healthy foods today, Then your brain is saying, oh, healthy foods. What does that look like? Oh, okay. I think I'll have a peach, right? You can really understand how you're living. But if you don't know yourself enough to understand where some of it comes from, like, what's the genesis of this? Why do I believe I'm not worthy? Why do I believe I have to be a perfectionist? Like I know one of the places for me was, again, going back to school, grade 8, when I made a mistake at the blackboard. I know Ginny's heard this story before. In math, I made a mistake at the blackboard, and the teacher said, you are not allowed to make a mistake because God gave you a good brain. Everybody else in this room is allowed to make a mistake, but you're not. So as a 13-year-old girl with, boys and girls in the 8th grade class, I embraced this, oh gosh, I better not make a mistake. I have to be perfect. So that took a lot of therapy to uncover and get rid of. But these are the things that we don't question because they're just in there. And so when I talk about knowing yourself, there are so many different ways that we can pick up what's part of us that maybe doesn't belong in the 21st century. What's part of us that maybe isn't who we are now. We might have even been that in the past. So when I work with somebody and we go into a past life, for example, or a genealogical trait, like, how many people do you know who's, all the people in our family go to college. And then if you choose to not go to college, there's something wrong with you. Or all of the men in our family become lawyers and you really want to be a music conductor, but it takes you till you're 40 or 50 before you quit the law firm and go out and conduct an orchestra. These are the things that we don't question. And so I'm inviting you to go into the inquiry of, who do you believe yourself to be that you didn't choose to be? Right? I mean, some of that is true, just as we've been talking about the color of our skin. Well, we didn't choose that. I could go into the esoteric part of our soul chose that for this lifetime. But did I choose to be angry? Did I choose to be a rebel? Those are the things that we can really examine, and we can start to say, did I choose this, or am I conditioned, programmed to be this in the world? And guess what? You are at choice in every moment of your life. I'm going to say that again, because if you haven't embraced that before, I'm blessing you with this right now. You are at choice in every moment of your life. You're at choice about what you say. You're at choice about what you believe. You're at choice about your thoughts. You're even at choice about your emotions. And I want to talk about that for a little bit, because while you're learning to be yourself, examine what you have in the way of reactions, right? In all of our lives, events happen, we have a reaction. That's like the knee jerk. That's the feeling that pops up. If you learn to hit the pause button, you have a chance to then choose how to respond. That's conscious choice. It might look like it would look if you acted out of the reaction, but you're consciously choosing it. But if you just act out of reaction all the time, your programming is running you. Just like those of us who know about computers, right? The program only runs what the programmer put into the computer. So if you operate out of reaction, you're acting out of the programming that somebody put in you. Might have been you in the past. But what I'm here to do is to empower you to not believe everything you believe. Right? What if you don't have to believe everything you believe? What if you examine your beliefs? What if you look at your thoughts and you start saying, do I really want to go down this path? I don't know how many of you have heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza and his work and that neuroplasticity of our brains. We have, he would call them neural pathways. That's a scientific term. I call them troughs or ruts in your brain. Once you go into that, once you get into this constant path of thinking something like I'm ugly because I'm fat, or I'm old and therefore it's okay that everything hurts. That just comes with age, right? So you have this thought that you get into, and you get into a rut in your brain that gets deeper and deeper. It's actually the neural pathway gets stronger and stronger the more you exercise that thought process. And what Joe Dispenza teaches is you can actually stop that when you're conscious that you're going down that path, and you can hop over to a new neural pathway. So if you catch yourself going down a negative thought about yourself, or something that's programmed in that you don't really want to be, but you believe it, you can stop and hop over. If you've gotten a conscious thought about, here's what I really want to think about, here's what I really want to believe. And the more that you hop out of the first trough, the weaker and weaker and weaker the pull to go down that path is. And the more you replace it with a new thought about who you are, how you want to think about yourself, what you want to believe, the stronger the new neural pathway gets. You can actually reprogram your brain. So programming, conditioning, the stuff that has come in from the outside or come down your genealogical pathway or is in the past, whether it's this lifetime or a past lifetime, or society, right? Culturally, where we live. I mean, I'm born and raised and live in the DC area. Those of us who are here are influenced by that. Some really great ways. I mean, I grew up hearing all kinds of languages and seeing all kinds of people and meeting people from all over the world. It was really expanding. My husband grew up on a farm, a dairy farm in Wisconsin. He didn't have the same experience. And then he joined the Peace Corps and lived in Ethiopia for 3 years. So he got some experience. But what about that? You know, what about our society? What about the church we went to? What about the school we went to? What about the family we were born into? What about the extended family? All of these things that are part of our lives. And the reason that we're hearing this here in 2022 is because we can choose a different path. Now, I personally now believe human design is the counseling tool for the 21st century. It is so deep and so complex and so helpful. Everybody I know that I've done a reading for, that I know has had a reading, has been so helped by this. Oh, okay. Oh, I see. I can really be that, do that, and learn about it. So if you haven't experienced human design, I would invite you to just take a look at it, see if it's something that resonates with you. But if you've ever had, I mean, there's so many tools. I've talked about a bunch of the tools. We've talked about Colby and DISC. You know, there are a whole lot of tools out there, and each gives you a little slice of something else to know about yourself. But the most important thing is to understand that you do have the power to clear away what we call the not self. You are empowered to do that. And when you own that, you can release the conditioning, you can release the programming. But if you never examine yourself to that level, then what's familiar feels like truth and you stay on that path. And if there's something in your life that's not working, or if you're feeling like the mask, you have to go into too many different masks, for example, that's where you start to examine why do I believe this? Where did it come from? And I'm going to tell you, the truth is, you don't have to get to the why all the time. You just have to understand, I don't want to stay in this neural pathway. I don't want to stay in this belief. I'm going to change my belief. And you decide to do it. That's really where empowered living is. And I want to invite you to consider that you are, I mentioned before, you are a multidimensional being living a multidimensional life. There is a cosmic plan that you are a part of. And so when we think about our bodies, we think about our physical, emotional, mental, spiritual bodies, right? I'm going to add for you the idea of your cosmic body. You're really here a part of the whole cosmos, the whole universe. Have you heard of the butterfly effect, where a butterfly in South America can impact the weather? It has an impact. Think about how what you are thinking is putting a frequency out into the universe. You know, every TV show that's ever been broadcast is still playing out in the universe. Did you know that? Way out there, they're watching I Love Lucy, thinking that's what's going on down on Earth. And some days my life looks like it's an episode of I Love Lucy. But think about that. When you project a thought, it's going to just keep going out into the cosmos. It's going to go out into your neighborhood. It's going to go out into the earth. What are you putting out? Boy, when you start to take responsibility for your thoughts, it's like, I want to clean them up. I don't want to speak negatively because I'm putting that out there. I'm creating a magnet. So you're living in a multidimensional universe and you're living a multidimensional life. I'm going to share with you some stories about how that's actually played out in my life before I learned all this stuff. So when I was in college, I thought, I'm going to marry a guy who has to have 3 qualifications. First of all, he has to be Catholic. Second of all, he needs to be an engineer. I didn't really know what an engineer was, or I might not have put that in there. And third, he has to make, now I told you I'm old, he has to make $15,000 a year. So what do? I meet a guy who's Catholic, an engineer. He only makes $13,000, but we got engaged a week after we met. And when I told my parents I wanted to marry this guy, my dad said, well, your sister's getting married on May 29th, so I'm only paying for one wedding this year. It's a double wedding now. And by the time we got married, he had gotten a raise. And so he was making $15,000 a year. So he met those criteria. Now, I didn't know then, but now that I look at it, it was like, I really set that up and it really happened. Wow, what if I'd been smarter and said, somebody I'm going to stay with forever, because we got divorced several years later. But it was a learning experience the whole time. There are just some things that we have. I'll bet you could look at your life and say, I programmed that in there. When I was little, I remember standing on the sidewalk with my dad watching the Sputnik and Echo satellites going across the sky. And I said, Daddy, someday I'm going to work for NASA on the space program. Now, it took a few decades, but I did go to work for NASA on the Hubble Space Telescope Program and worked there for 12 years. Now, I programmed that back there at age 7. And it took a while, but when I finally, I had this realization one day, oh my gosh, I set this up a long time ago. And in the meantime, I had worked like 14 years for the Department of Defense, and I had done some other stuff. But I did get there. And there's a level of understanding that we're already living a multidimensional life, because once we put that thought out into consciousness, which is a dimension, it exists. It really is there. One of the things I use with my clients, I have a 7-step process, and we start with the vision, because once we have energized a vision in consciousness, a movie of the dream life we want, it exists already. And then we get down in the steps to the gratitude step, because we can be grateful that it already exists in the dimension of consciousness. And step 7 is when we lay out the roadmap and set the goals. Because in between, we want to be able to clear the blocks and the doubts that come up. So if you give yourself permission to learn about yourself, whatever tools are fun for you to learn about, but journaling is a great way to learn about yourself. I saw somebody say, I write so I know what I think. It's like, what a great sentence that is. Because when it comes out of our pen, it's like Julia Cameron's artist pages to do. My husband's still doing that. He's been doing it for over 20 years. But once you write out, it's like you start to see what you think. Oh, I really do think that, don't I? You can start to examine your life and live that life that really works for you. So I'm inviting you to consider that you are a being of light. That's what you came here as, a spark of light to shine your light. However you figure out what that is, I would love to help you if you would like to. I have a dream class coming up starting in August, where we're going to examine dreams and look at the scientific and the esoteric understanding of dreams, learn how to create your own dream dictionary, how to better remember your dreams, how to learn some different tools for understanding the messages in your dreams. And then we'll talk about visioning and dreaming in the multidimensional way, dreaming into your life. And I'd like to offer for OPW, that's why my husband was struggling with KEEP, because I said, I got to give my OPW gals a discount on this. So I would invite you to go to beyondquantum.co, beyondquantum.co/dream special. Because if you go to my website, beyondquantum.co, you're going to see what everybody else is paying. But if you go to beyondquantum.co/dream special, you'll get the $50 off the price. And it's going to be fun because we'll have time in between the classes to actually practice the dream tools. And I want to leave you with some homework because I'm basically a teacher. Write a list of your desires. Write a list of what you want. And then ask yourself, who do I have to be to have this list? The more you know about yourself, you'll realize that you don't need to chase things. You don't need to wish for things. That when you have a desire, it can be a message from your soul, just like your dreams can be a message from your soul. What you wish, what you desire, requires that you be the kind of person who can have that. And when you know that, when you know yourself, then you're all lined up, all aligned to receive the life, the richest life you can dream of. So I hope this has been helpful, and I hope you have some tools to move forward with. And thank you for typing that in.
Thank you, Rosemary. Everybody unmute yourself and we will give Rosemary a big round of applause. So
yeah, thank you.
Clapping for real. Thank you. Oh my gosh, Rosemary, so many great nuggets there. I especially love what's familiar feels like truth. I think I've heard you say that before, but I'm really happy to have that reminder. So thank you for sharing your wisdom with us tonight. And I want to thank anyone who is watching this live or the replay. If you'd like to join us for one of our 11 free Zoom gatherings a month or an in-person in Richmond, Virginia or Charlottesville, Virginia, comment below and I'll tell you how to do that. You can also go to my website, opwgc.com, and find out all about our community.